There are a lot of organizations out there who might inspire your organization's storytelling efforts. I recently asked the participants in our community Facebook group which nonprofits' storytelling they most admire. And it was really interesting. A lot of folks said St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So today I thought I would do a video to talk about their storytelling and give you some tips to tell stories like them. My name is Vanessa Lockshin, and I'm the president of the Storytelling Nonprofit. Welcome back to my channel for another video on nonprofit storytelling. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital has a very large recognizable brand name, and for a lot of organizations, it's one they look to as a leader and for examples of how to do the work really well. So I thought I would break down 4 specific tips to help you tell stories like them. Let's start with the first one, focus. I have a mentor who often says to me, focus looks good on you. And I think this is so true for organizations as well. Having focus in your messaging and how you talk about things, all of that is really, really important. And one of the things I think St. Jude's does particularly well is have a focused message. Finding cures, saving lives. It's super clear, right? You know exactly what's happening there, what they're doing, and they use that message as sort of a centerpiece for telling all kinds of stories around it that help them explain this message and really engage donors in it. So one thing you can do at your organization is think about how you can clarify your message and bring greater focus to it. Tip number 2, wrap stories around the message to really create a cohesive narrative. Now, I've talked about narrative here on our channel before, and maybe you've been a part of those discussions, and I think it's a really important concept that a lot of organizations are starting to pick up more and more in their storytelling work, where they're really thinking about how over time are we developing a narrative about who we are, what it is we do, and how we show up in our community to do this work. And storytelling is a great way that this can happen. And I want to show you some examples from St. Jude's. So like I said, with St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, there's a lot of focus and clarity in how they approach storytelling and messaging more broadly. Like I said, their tagline, finding cures, saving children, is really clear. It's everywhere. And in a lot of ways, they allow that to really guide what they do, how they communicate what they do, and the kinds of stories they tell. Like I said earlier, I think having this kind of focus and clarity is a great starting point for storytelling, because if you don't have this, otherwise you end up kind of all over the map and it can be less effective and less persuasive overall. All right, tip number 3, share your stories in an inclusive way. I think this is a really interesting tip that I picked up from analyzing quite a few of their stories and communications. But one of the things that I started to notice was that St. Jude's shares content in both English and Spanish, and I'll show you some examples. Here's an example of a post from their website, which is in Spanish. I think this is a really interesting thing to note, and I haven't seen a ton of what I would say like kind of name brand organizations doing this, but I think this is a really great way to think about how you can reach new audiences, communicate with them, and really bring them into the fold of what your organization is doing. Now, I'm guessing that they probably arrived at deciding to use Spanish, possibly based on their client demographics that they're targeting for fundraising. And so if you choose to go bilingual or trilingual with your storytelling or content, you may want to tap into your organization's data to make that strategic decision. And finally, tip number 4, think about ways to really humanize your cause for your donors in your stories. This is something that St. Jude's does really well. Of course, they share lots of pictures of children and their families, and I know for a lot of organizations, and maybe yours, that can feel like a little challenging. You're not really sure if it's something you can do. Maybe you don't have the right photo waivers, all of those things. But I would encourage you to find other ways to humanize the cause for donors so that they can really feel connected to who it is you're talking about, who it is they help, and ultimately really feel like they're a part of the team and a part of the cause. This is a really important thing we can offer to them. Those are my 4 tips for you inspired by St. Jude Children's Research Hospital's storytelling, and I hope they're helpful for you. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Be sure to leave a comment and let me know which of these tips you plan to try at your organization. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you are not already subscribed to my channel for weekly tips on fundraising and communications, be sure to hit that subscribe button.